Hi, Pete Swiderski back with another lesson here. Today we're going to talk about chord changes. Now you'll hear this a lot when people are talking about improvisation. They'll talk about the changes, the chord changes, and what this really means is that it's the underlying progression of the song. Now every song that you ever hear has some sort of chord changes that are happening underneath it. So if I'm sitting in a concert band or an orchestra, typically I'm not going to know what those chord changes are unless I happen to be really adept at that and I'm listening, I'm thinking, oh, I know what change that is, I know what that is. But most songs, or all songs practically, there are chord changes that are happening underneath them. So typical chord changes are useful for a player when it's your time to improvise or solo over a song. And in that case, in a jazz band or a jazz combo, you'll see the chord changes because they're important for you at that point because you are going to start composing. So chord changes may look something like this. I may see C major 7, I may see an E minor 7, I may see a G7, whatever the case may be. This is just an indicator of what you can do as an improviser and kind of what is the roadmap that you should take. So when I see this, a composer is indicating that they want you to play something that has C major 7 material in it. Here that would mean Dorian. Here that would mean a dominant 7th or Mixolydian mode. So all these are important for you because they kind of give you the outline of what you can and can't do. Now if a bass player, a piano player, a guitar player, your rhythm section, if they're playing chords and outlining bass lines that are in C major 7 and you started playing something that was in a totally different key, like an A flat major 7, then it would sound wrong to the ear because you're not playing the changes or the chord changes. So you have to be aware of these when you're improvising in jazz because in effect you're really just being the soloist. Now if you get certain apps like iReal Pro, or if you get a fake book or real book, anything with chord changes in it, you can see what the changes are for the different standards in jazz. So if you're playing a song like Blues or Autumn Leaves or Caravan or rhythm changes, whatever the song may be, those all have a specific formula that makes them the way they are. Now many songs in jazz are set up over certain types of changes. For example, the change is called blues, and everybody's heard of blues. There's a specific set of changes that are blues, and they have a specific set of chords, and we'll get into that later. But when you are playing blues, everybody universally knows that you're going to be using this particular set of changes. Now there are a variety of variations on blues, but when you're playing blues, no matter where you go, if I go to Korea in a little jazz club and I decide we're going to play blues, then it's going to sound a specific way there, and that's going to be the same way it's going to sound in the United States or the same way it's going to sound in France, because blues are blues, and those are common changes that people would know. Now of course in any particular set of changes you can play it in different keys. So I have 12 options to play blues. Now that doesn't mean that I'm going to end up playing blues in all 12 of our keys like we talked about in the circle of fifths earlier. It simply means that there are 12 options. Typically if you were going to play blues with somebody, you'd find that it were in a specific key. It might be in B flat, might be in F, something like that. But it just depends on the standard also. And when I say standard, I'm talking about jazz songs that are kind of set up or kind of considered to be the standard pieces that you would play. And there are lots of lists for jazz standards that you can get. But the nice thing is, typically when you play a jazz standard, most people are going to end up playing it in the same key. So if I go to play blues, it's likely not going to be in F sharp. It's probably going to be in F, or it's probably going to be in B flat. So that's the good news. So changes, it's good to be aware of the changes. It doesn't matter what song you're playing. There are always changes there. Sometimes they're difficult, sometimes they're easy, sometimes there are just a couple of chords, but they're there and you have to know them as an improviser. Hope this has been helpful. Thanks.